Well, look at you, wandering into the wee dark library, brave soul. I can see you're new here, so let me introduce myself. I'm your wee dark librarian, reader of cursed books, collector of questionable stories, and full-time chaos consultant. This is our corner for fae, folklore, myths and monsters from Scotland and the rest of the world. And if you've just come from the short video about the Baobhan Sith, well then you're either brave, nosy, or you've ignored every red flag from that video. Respect. Tonight we're going deeper into Scottish vampire lore. The Baobhan Sith, the Revenants, the Death Walkers, and why Scotland's supernatural creatures are absolutely unhinged. If you've not watched the short, don't worry. I'll catch you up. But this version, this is where we get comfy. Longer stories, proper lore, the kind of details that make you glance over your shoulder. Right, pull up a chair, grab a cuppa, grab something iron if you're feeling really committed. Let's talk vampires. Now listen, before we talk vampire lore, you need to forget everything that you know from the telly. There's no fangs, no capes, no sparkles, and nobody called Edward is showing up in the Highlands. Scottish vampires are older, messier, and honestly, they're more believable. They're more like if a demon, a corpse, and a fairy had a committee meeting, and they were like, right lads, let's make men cry. The climate didn't help either. I mean, imagine living in the Highlands in the 1600s. It's freezing. It's pitch black winter half the year. There's wolves, hunger, superstition, existential dread, and the constant suspicion that something in the woods is looking back at you. Of course, people invented monsters. Now, most Scottish vampire lore comes from real human fears. Fears of things like dark forests, dangerous nights, disappearing travellers, isolated travel, shadows that move wrong, and the Scottish weather, which is a horror creature in itself. It's what happens when a whole country lives with dark winters, peak bogs, and the constant feeling that something is staring at you from the hills. So when a body was found drained of blood, or when somebody didn't return from the hills, or when a hunter vanished, a monster was the easiest explanation. And honestly, valid. So, let's get started with the Baobhan Sith. She's a vampire fairy. Not undead, not human, a fae, which is way worse. She reads minds, so she knows what you find attractive. She shapeshifts, so she becomes exactly that. And she smells blood, so hunters were basically a walking buffet. She sings, she dances, she charms, and then she opens you up like in a pack of biscuits. She hates iron, loves chaos, and symbolically, she's warning about temptation, lonely travel, and wandering into the woods thinking that you're special. Really, it's classic Scottish advice. Don't trust anything too pretty. Well, unless it's me, obviously. Right, let me tell you the full story, because this one is a lot. Picture it. The Scottish Highlands, late at night, it's cold, it's dark, it's remote. One of those nights where you can hear everything: the wind, the trees, your own bad decisions. Four young hunters had been out all day. They're totally knackered, but they're buzzing, bragging, showing off the way that men do. They stumble across a wee bothy, tucked into the house. It's proper cosy, firewood waiting, chairs, the whole vibe. Basically, Airbnb, Highland Horror Edition. They get the fire going, sit down, feet up, having a blether. And the youngest one, always the youngest, goes, you know what would make tonight perfect? Four beautiful women walking in the door. Now, if you're Scottish, you already know. He has jinxed the entire group. The Fae hear everything, especially nonsense. And like clockwork, a delicate wee tap at the door. at midnight in the middle of nowhere. They open it, and honestly, they should have closed it again. 4 women, long green dresses, barefoot, glowing like forest angels. The lads do that thing where they all try and sit up straighter and pretend that they don't smell like they've just been rolling in deer guts. They shove chairs around, make space, acting like pure gentlemen, but not one of them is asking the obvious question. Why are 4 stunning, mysterious women wandering the Highlands at midnight? No, they're too busy simping. They're there like, aye, come in, darling, take a seat. Men. Anyway, the women sit down and start singing this soft, haunting tune. And suddenly, the men are up dancing like they're enchanted. Because they are. Except for the oldest hunter. He's married, loyal, sensible, and he's already getting the ick. He's there, doing that awkward, I know, I'm alright over here actually shuffle, and he's halfway through making excuses when he realises the dancing has stopped. He turns his head very slowly, and what does he see? One of the women, nails suddenly long and sharp, has slit the youngest lad's throat. And she's there, drinking his blood like she's doing wine tasting. The other 2, away. Red eyes, long nails, eyes glazed, dead quiet, no chill whatsoever. And then it hits him. Babanshi, vampire fairies. Beautiful on the outside, nightmare fuel on the inside. Weak to daylight, and iron. He panics, as you would. And do you think his weapons are anywhere near him? No, of course not. They're on the other side of the room. Because why would it ever be easy, right? His own dancing partner now starts trying to reel him back in. She's there, smiling, swaying, pressing closer, and he's like, no, absolutely not. And he bolts. He's away, sprinting out into the cold night air, heart in his throat, legs going like he's in the Highland Olympics. And then he sees the horses, and he remembers they'd been freshly shod with iron shoes earlier. He dives behind the horses like his life depends on it, which it does, and a banshee comes spilling out of the bothy after him. But they stop, dead still, because the iron burns them. So now they're circling, pacing, begging, seducing, threatening. They're trying every trick in the supernatural playbook to get him to step out from behind the horses. At one point, they promise him the world, and then they're all like, come back in, we swear we won't kill you. Then 2 seconds later, they're like, your friends were delicious, and then screaming in rage. Pure emotional whiplash. But he hugs his ground, sitting there, watching that sky, and as soon as the tiny glow from dawnbreaking comes, they vanish. Gone like smoke. When the sun is up and it's safe, he finally steps out, shaken, traumatised, freezing, and goes back to the bothy to find his friends dead. He swears from that day on to tell the story to warn others. And honestly, good. Men need more warnings like this. If 4 gorgeous women appear in the middle of nowhere at night, barefoot, singing, glowing, and aggressively available, you should run. So, why iron? In Scottish folklore, iron isn't just metal. It represents the boundary between the human world and the supernatural world. Iron breaks glamour, kills illusions, disrupts magic, protects the living, and burns anything from the other world. It's a boundary metal, made by human hands, forged in fire, a symbol of civilization. To the Fae, iron is basically telling them to get back in their lane. Think of it like a supernatural version of a pop-up blocker, or a bug spray, or that one friend who always ruins your delusions. Basically, if you're ever in doubt, carry a nail. Now, vampire fairies aren't the only blood-related nightmares here. We've also got revenants, the restless dead who refuse to stay in the grave. They're not fae, not ghosts, not zombies. Zombies wish they had this energy. Revenants are violence personified. They show up when someone dies, violently, unjustly, cursed, buried improperly, or they were just a petty, vengeful person in life. In old Scotland, if livestock died suddenly, it was a revenant. When villagers got sick after a funeral, revenant. When footsteps ran across the roof at night, revenant. It gave people a way to talk about grief, fear, guilt, and illness in a time when nobody understood disease. One famous case was the Melrose Revenant. A man who lived wickedly died, but he didn't stay dead. People saw him climbing roofs, attacking travellers, and spreading diseases. The monks dug him up and found his body was swollen, red, and full of blood. Classic old vampire signs. They dealt with it the traditional Scottish way, cut him open, and burned his heart. We're nothing if not practical. It was like a medieval therapy, basically, but like with more fire. Right, before we move on, we need to talk about something that gets overlooked, but it deserves its moment. Deathwalkers. If vampires drink you, and revenants chase you, deathwalkers are the ones who just follow you. Quiet, patient, too close, like your auntie, waiting to tell you that she disapproves of your life choices. In Scottish and wider European lore, a deathwalker isn't always a fully risen corpse. They're more like a shadow of a dead person, or a soul that gets stuck between worlds, or like a spirit that walks the earth because something went wrong, the echo of someone who died unprepared, or someone who died suddenly or violently and just didn't get the memo. They're not ghosts. Ghosts repeat memories. They're not revenants. Revenants attack. Deathwalkers are the in between, the unsettled, the unanchored. You know those stories of travellers hearing footsteps behind them on the moors, slow, steady, matching their pace. But then every time they turn around, there's nothing. That's classic Deathwalker behaviour. Not dramatic, not clawing at your throat, just existing, close enough to breathe down your neck. And the worst part, they don't always mean you harm. Sometimes they're warning you, sometimes they're attached to you, or they're bringing you a message, or they're just lonely. Let me give you a quick tale. The Death Walker of Kildonan. A young shepherd kept hearing footsteps behind him every night on the same stretch of moor. Never saw anyone, never caught a shape, but he swore he heard breathing. One night he turned around faster than usual and he saw a figure, grey-faced, hollow-eyed, standing only a few steps away. It didn't speak, didn't move, didn't blink. It just stared. He sprinted home, shaken so badly that he could barely open the latch. His gran, calm as anything, says to him, "Aye, someone's dead. You'll hear the name in the morning." And sure enough, at sunrise, there came news. A man in the next village had died unexpectedly, right at the same time the shepherd saw the figure. Deathwalkers don't always hurt you, but they always mean something. They weren't glamorous or romantic. They were described as pale, thin, silent. Their eyes were too deep set, their skin was too grey, their clothes were hanging wrong, and they were never quite touching the ground. A lot of people today would explain it as grief hallucinations or sleep deprivation. But in folklore, this was a whole category of supernatural being. Not quite a ghost, not quite a revenant, not quite a vampire, just stuck. But they always appear at night. There's a story from the northeast that says that you could tell a deathwalker was behind you if your shadow suddenly stretched longer than it should, as if another shadow was inside yours. People carried iron or roundwood when travelling at night, not just for fae and witches, but specifically so that the dead would stay in our lane. Iron breaks the boundary, Rowan protects the soul, and salt keeps the dead from trailing you home like a stray cat. Scottish lore hits so hard because the environment raised us on pure survival mode. Think about it. Long dark winters, isolation, dangerous landscapes, brutal weather, superstition woven into everything, grief everywhere, and storytelling, keeping the memories and all the stories alive. Remember, our monsters reflect real fears: fears of disease, famine, loneliness, grief, trauma, people disappearing on the moors, and the feeling of being watched in the dark. Folklore helped people explain the unexplainable. Why didn't he come home? A monster took him. Why did she fall sick? A revenant visited. Why is the forest terrifying? Because something lives in it. Folklore was therapy before therapy existed, a way to explain fear, make meaning, and keep people safe. It wasn't just stories, it was survival. And honestly, it makes for great storytelling now. And that, my dear visitor, is Scotland's vampire lore. The Baobhan, seductive, deadly, and allergic to iron. The Revenants, restless dead who clocked out of life and then came back. The Death Walkers, shadows that follow with messages that absolutely nobody asked for. In a country that used monsters to explain fear, grief, trauma, and the wilderness breathing down your neck. Thank you for joining me in the first full episode. I hope you enjoyed the chaos and the lore, or at least survived it. In the next video, we'll chat about deadly water spirits, kelpies, selkies, and river fae. Bring a blanket, bring a warm drink, and absolutely no horses. See you soon.